What's up, everybody? Tony East here, covering the Pacers for Forbes and Locked On Pacers, here to do the second to last game recap video on this channel, looking back at Pacers Thunder Game 6. A mollywhopping by the Pacers, their first big win of this final series, their third of the series in total, forcing a Game 7, which will be the last video of these post-game videos on this channel, which is just crazy. I'll talk more about these after the next one, but did not expect to be doing these at all, and especially not for this long. What a win by the Pacers, who are one win from a championship. And Game 6 to me was fascinating because it was all about the same things that I talked about in Game 5, but just the opposite in terms of the effectiveness. What I mean by that is, if you watched my Game 5 video or read my story about Game 5 or listened to Locked On Pacers, you heard me talk about all the little things that went so bad for the Pacers in that game, and they're little things in terms of what they are as an individual item. What I mean by that is the Pacers had a bunch of turnovers in Game 5. If you have 15 turnovers, but you play well otherwise, that's a little thing. But when you have a bunch of turnovers, when you go over 20, that's a big problem, right? When Jalen Williams, who's an amazing player, has 25 points, that's a little problem, but whatever. When he has 40, that's a big thing, right? When the Thunder have 19 offensive rebounds, that's a big thing, right? That could be a little thing. You know, all these things that usually are little problems all became just massively huge problems for the Pacers in Game 5, and Tyrese Haliburton got hurt, which is a huge thing on its own. To win a game in which Haliburton gets hurt in the middle of, the Pacers have to nail the little things, right? And instead, they were just a disaster at all of those little things, right? Terrible across the board at them. They didn't play like so awful. They were within 2 in the fourth quarter. Regardless, this is me talking about Game 6. And to talk about Game 6, I have to lead for 2 minutes of talking about Game 5 because that sets the scene for the game that happened 3 days later, which to me was also very revealing in that the Pacers nailed those little things, right? Thing one, the turnovers. They're plague all series. Every team's plague against the Thunder. 10 turnovers for the Pacers. TJ McConnell had 3. Nobody else had more than 1. Their ball control was fantastic. It was the best they've played in terms of their flow of their offense without coughing up the ball. They weren't that efficient on offense. They only shot 41%, but the way in which they took care of the ball was the best it's been all series. That is making a little thing a big thing by being good at it, right? That was their best turnover game this series. They were fantastic taking care of the ball. And on the other end, 21 turnovers for OKC, right? Their pressure against the Thunder in that possession battle became huge. When SGA or J-Dub would dribble below the free throw line, here comes 2 defenders. Got a lot of steals that way. 8 on SGA, 3 on Jalen Williams to get into their offense quicker, to get the Thunder out of rhythm. Where the Thunder shot a higher percentage in this game from the field, but they took way fewer shots in the end, 74-92. In a very even free throw game. And that was a huge part of it, is that possession battle. We talked about that with players before the game. How do you get your offense back up after a crummy Game 5? They all said possessions. Got to be better in the possession battle, and they 100% were. Very impressive response from the Pacers at that little thing. A little thing, too, rebounding. The Pacers had lots of offensive rebounds in Game 5. The Thunder had even more. In Game 6, the Pacers had 11. That's a pretty healthy number for them. Pascal Siakam was a beast on the offensive glass. Pascal Siakam had 5 offensive rebounds. The Thunder as a team had 4, right? The Pacers were great on the glass. Miles Turner only finishes with 4 boards, but he was hitting guys, keeping them off the boards. TJ McConnell had 9 rebounds, right? That's more than any Thunder player. He's my height, right? Like, that is very impressive. So the possession battle was just dominated by the Pacers. So they didn't have to be that good on a per-possession basis. They didn't have to have anyone go crazy and shine. Obi Toppin had 20 points, but they nailed those 2 little things. Another little thing from Game 5. Jalen Williams goes crazy. 40 points for Jalen Williams in that game. He had 16 in Game 6. He was minus 40. That was mostly just a consequence of him being on the floor at bad times, right? He was 6 for 9 on 2s. He was still pretty effective, but not nearly as effective as he was in Game 5. And all the role players were very limited on OKC with their jump shots, with their finishing, with everything. That little thing stayed a little thing. And, of course, the Pacers' little things all improved. Their bench scoring was better. Tyrese Haliburton was back. We'll get to him in a second. And all of that amounted to the little things becoming a big thing in favor of the Pacers. The exact opposite thing that happened to them in Game 5 happened to them in Game 6, and they won the game. And the focus on those little things will be absolutely critical in the final game of the NBA Finals. It's so obvious, right? But they have to nail those little things in Game 7, or they're going to be reliant on hot jump shooting or another crazy Game 1-like finish. They don't want to do that. Other stuff that mattered. I mentioned the bench scoring. I've heard this stat. I haven't looked it up myself, that the team that's won the bench scoring battle has won every game in this series. That's an offense and a defense thing, but TJ McConnell was fantastic again. He's been so good recently in the series. He had 12 points on 6 of 12 shooting, so he's efficient enough from the field. 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals. Just a brilliant game. His defense has been great. He's been a tidy isolation finisher, adding pace to the game. He's just played very well recently, and that is even more important with Halbert in his current state, which we'll get to. Obi Toppin was fantastic again as well. He made 4 threes, 2 twos, 4 free throws, 6 rebounds. He just adds juice and size to the game in a way that the Thunder have had trouble dealing with. They don't really have an Obi Toppin-sized player, and he's been really good this whole series. His offense has been good. He's just played so free on a big tent setting. He's been a very nice backup center weapon as well. He was quite good. Ben Shepherd made it huge 3 late in the third quarter. He had 5 boards. He was pretty good. Tony Bradley gave the Pacers 6 useful minutes in the rotation. Outside of Ben Mathurin, every bench player was very good and filled their role, and that was a huge deal for the Pacers too. And the last thing was, of course, Tyrese Halliburton, who everybody wondered how good he'd be, including me. Can he play defense at all in this series? How much burst is he going to have? Can he score? 14 points is fine. Took him 12 shots to get there. He made his threes. He missed his twos. 5 assists, only 1 turnover. They won his minutes by 25. The key is where that one, he could change directions better than I thought. He got 2 12 shots, right? That forced Lou Dort to guard him intensely. That's massive. They need that again in Game 7. But 2, the fact that he was able to do anything on defense, move around pretty well. He had 2 steals and not be just a total disaster. He was good enough for them to play him enough. They didn't have to play him in the fourth quarter, which was a big deal. He was good enough to play a good amount, and that kept him on the floor. Good enough game from Halliburton in his current state, and they made up for it with good play in the minutes that had Nembhard and McConnell together. Right, Nembhard had 17 points, a very quiet, awesome game from him. His defense was fantastic once again. Siakam was great when he had to handle. He had 16 and 13. And of course, they played 2 point guard groups with McConnell and Nembhard, and they played lineups with no Siakam or Halliburton because they had to for health reasons. Those normally stink. They got away with those. That's how good McConnell and Nembhard were. They need that to be the case in Game 7 as well, and that's what's next for the Pacers. Their last game of the season is the last game of the season. If they win, they'll be champions for the first time in one of the most memorable seasons and craziest sports stories ever in this playoff run, and if they lose, it will still be a crazy story, but they will have come up short, and they'll have to live with that forever, and it will hurt. It will hurt for the fans. It will hurt for the players. It will hurt for the staff. It will hurt for everybody. And that is the situation they find themselves in with 1 game to go. They always feel good coming off a win. The Thunder respond very well coming off a loss. It's Game 7 of the finals. You just never know. There's so much emotion involved. Things could look totally different. We'll see it all on tomorrow, Sunday night. I'll be there. I'll have a video on this channel at some point in the day or two after the game talking about it in this Pacers season. But thank you guys so much for listening to this one. See ya very soon.